She only wanted to return a lost wallet. But 20 minutes after making the call, the restaurant parking lot filled with black cars. Everyone went silent, because the wallet belonged to a Mafia boss, and he already knew her name. Her name was Amara. Most people barely noticed her when they walked into the small diner on 6th and Harvey Street. She wore a plain black apron, her hair tied back in a simple bun, and her voice was soft, so soft, that customers sometimes leaned forward just to hear her speak. She wasn't loud. She wasn't flashy, and she definitely wasn't the kind of girl who drew attention. But she remembered everything. Every face, every voice, every order, every regular. Because being invisible had taught her something. People reveal the most when they think you're not watching. The diner was old. The kind of old that held the smell of coffee in the walls and grease in the seats. Mornings were always the same, truck drivers half asleep, office workers muttering about deadlines, and the radio playing music nobody ever really listened to. Amara moved through it silently, clearing tables, refilling cups, offering small smiles no one returned. But she didn't complain. She had learned a long time ago that life doesn't always give back what you put in. You just had to keep going anyway. She worked double shifts, 6 days a week. Some weeks, 7. Rent didn't care about exhaustion. Electricity bills didn't care about hunger. And her mother's medication sure didn't care about hope. Yet even with all that weight on her shoulders, Amara was the kind of person who would stop in the rain to help a stray cat, or stay late to help a coworker clean, even if it meant she'd miss the last bus home. There was something gentle inside her, something stubbornly good, even when life had tried to scrape that goodness out of her more than once. But that goodness, that softness, is exactly what's about to be tested. That morning, the diner was quieter than usual. No laughter, no chatter, just the sound of rain against the windows and the steady hum of the coffee machine. Amara liked mornings like this. They felt peaceful, predictable, safe. She was wiping down the counter when the door opened. A small bell above it rang a sharp, delicate sound. She looked up. A man walked in tall, sharply dressed, expensive watch glimmering faintly under the dull diner lights. Not flashy wealth, old wealth, weighty, quiet, the kind people didn't question. He didn't look around, didn't take in the room. He just walked directly to an empty corner booth, sat down, and stared at the table like he was waiting for something to happen. Amara approached him, her voice gentle. "Good morning. Can I get you anything to drink?" He didn't look up, just said, low and calm, "Black coffee, no sugar." His voice was the kind that didn't need to rise to be heard. Controlled, cold, like he was used to being listened to. Several thick stacks of $100 bills. A silver card with no name, just an embossed crest. And a business card with a phone number. No name, no company, just 10 digits. Amara inhaled slowly. She could have returned it to the manager. She could have turned it in. She could have ignored it. But she didn't. Because despite everything, she still believed doing the right thing mattered. Maybe this was her chance to prove it. She slipped the wallet carefully into her apron pocket. The diner felt different now. Like the walls were watching. Like something had shifted in the air and couldn't shift back. Amara didn't know it yet, but the moment her fingers touched that wallet, her life began moving toward a door that only opens one way. And she wasn't just returning lost property. She had just stepped into a world where morality has a price, and kindness comes with consequences. The wallet felt heavier than it should. Not because of the money, though, the stacks inside were enough to cover 2 months' rent and groceries, but because of what it represented. People who carry wallets like this don't lose them. Not by accident. Amara stood behind the counter, her hands motionless, her breath quiet. The diner buzzed around her in its usual rhythm, silverware clinking, coffee brewing, low conversations, but she felt separated from all of it, as if a pane of glass had lowered between her and the rest of the world. She took one more glance inside the wallet. Money, yes. But no ID. Not a single card with a name. No driver's license. No bank card. Only the silver crest and the phone number. It didn't make sense. Her coworker, Mara, older, loud, and always in a rush, spotted the wallet in her hand. "Someone forgot something?" she asked, wiping down a table. Amara nodded slightly. "Yeah, the man in the corner booth." Mara froze. Then lowered her voice. "Him?" Amara didn't respond. She didn't need to. Everyone in the diner had noticed him. You don't forget a presence like that. Mara's expression shifted something between fear and warning. "Leave it." Her voice wasn't casual. It was the kind that comes from experience. People like that, if they left something, they left it on purpose. Don't. I have to return it, Amara said softly. Not defiant. Just certain. Mara stared at her, then shook her head. You're going to get yourself involved in something you can't walk away from. Amara swallowed. But she didn't put the wallet down. Because the truth was, she had never been the kind of person who walked past a wrong thing and pretended not to see it, even when it cost her. Especially when it cost her. She stepped into the back hallway, the space near the supply closet where no one paid attention. The walls were thin, and she could still hear customers and dishes clattering, but here, she could think. She pulled the business card from the wallet. Just a number. No name. No initials. Her thumb hovered over her phone screen. She hesitated. This is where a different version of her would stop. Leave the wallet. Walk back to her shift. Forget the whole thing. But Amara didn't have that version of herself. She took a breath, slow, quiet, steady, and dialed. The phone rang once. Twice. Then clicked. No greeting. No background noise. Just silence. Hello? Amara said. The voice that answered was low. Controlled. The same voice from the man in the booth. Yes? Amara's hand tightened around the phone. She hadn't expected him to answer personally. You left something, she said, choosing her words carefully. At the diner. I have your wallet. Silence. Not long, but full. Where are you now? He asked. In the back hall, she said. Then quickly corrected herself, heart jumping. At the diner. I work here. I just wanted to return. You did not open it? He asked. Amara froze. She could lie. Say no. Protect herself. But she had never been good at lying, and her voice would always betray her. I only looked to find identification. I didn't take anything. Her voice was steady, but her heartbeat wasn't. Another quiet pause. You are honest, he said, not impressed. Just stating a fact. Amara didn't know what to say to that. The man's tone shifted, not softened, not warmed, but focused. I will send for it. No, thank you. No wait. Just a statement. Then, the line went dead. Amara stared at her phone. Send for it. He wasn't coming back himself. Someone else was. A chill ran through her. She walked back into the dining room. Her steps were careful, controlled. She moved the same way she always did, but something about her presence felt different, sharper, more alert. She didn't know how long she waited. 5 minutes. 10. Maybe less. The diner door opened. Not loudly. Not with force. Just a quiet push. 2 black cars pulled up outside, sleek, reflective, windows dark. The men who stepped out didn't look like men who ran errands. They moved with the same calm efficiency she had seen earlier. Their suits were smooth, pressed, the kind that never wrinkled because the people wearing them had long ago learned how to move without uncertainty. They entered the diner without looking around. No hesitation. No confusion. They knew exactly who they were here for. One spoke. Not loudly. Just enough. Who has the wallet? The room went silent. Forks stopped clinking. Chairs stopped moving. Even the air felt still. Mara took one step back. Amara stepped forward. I have it, she said gently. The man didn't look surprised. Just extended his hand. Amara took the wallet from her pocket. Held it for a moment. This was the moment where she could still back out. Hand it over. Forget it ever happened. Walk back to her shift and pretend her world hadn't shifted rooms. The door of the diner closed behind her with a soft click, barely a sound. Yet it echoed through Amara's chest like a steel gate locking into place. Outside, the street was gray from the morning rain. Water gathered in small reflective patches over the cracked pavement. The world was still familiar, but it no longer felt close. It felt distant, quiet, like she was suddenly watching her own life from the outside. The 2 men did not touch her. They did not rush her. They simply walked one beside her, one slightly ahead as though they already knew she would follow. The black cars waited at the curb. Not loud, not flashy. Just present. Power doesn't need to shout. Power is understood. One of the men opened the back door. Amara hesitated just for a second. The air smelled like rain, coffee, the faint scent of frying oil drifting from the diner. The life she knew was just behind her. The life she did not know was in front of her. She took a breath and got in. The interior of the car was clean, quiet, too quiet. No radio, No conversation. The city outside passed in slow motion. Buildings she'd known her whole life blurred together. Street signs, bus stops, storefronts. People walked by in the rain with umbrellas and hoods and grocery bags. Living ordinary lives. The distance between her and them grew with every passing second. The man in the passenger seat spoke first. His eyes stayed forward. "What is your name?" His voice was calm, neutral. The tone of someone who did not ask questions to learn but to confirm. "Amara?" she said quietly. He nodded once. Just once. Like that was enough. "You work at the diner." Not a question. "Yes." Another small nod. Silence stretched again. The city shifted outside the window buildings, growing taller, cleaner. Sidewalks wider, fewer people, more security cameras, more quiet. This wasn't the part of the city you passed through. This was the part of the city you were allowed into. Amara could feel her heartbeat in her fingers. She didn't know these streets, but she could feel their rules. The second man sitting beside her finally turned his head. "You returned the wallet," he said. Not praise. Not gratitude. Observation. "Yes," Amara replied. "Most would not have," he said. She didn't know whether that was a compliment or a warning. She didn't respond. The car turned off the main road and into a gated driveway. Tall, iron bars slid open before them, no buzzer, no announcement. Someone had already been watching. They drove along a stone path lined with trimmed hedges and quiet fountains. Not grand, not showy. The wealth here was the kind that did not need to prove itself. The car stopped in front of a house that was not a mansion, but a fortress disguised as a home. Walls thick, windows tinted, silent security that did not ask questions. One of the men stepped out and opened her door. Amara followed. Her legs felt steady, but her breath didn't. They led her inside. The entrance was simple, warm lighting, quiet hallways. No guards in sight, but there were guards. She could feel them in the walls. The house was silent in a way that wasn't empty. It was the silence of deliberate presence. They stopped in front of a door. No one knocked. The door simply opened. He was sitting at a table near a window, looking out at the rain. The same man from the diner. His coat hung neatly on the back of his chair. His posture was calm. Not casual, just still. He didn't turn when they entered. "You may go," he said. The men bowed slightly and left, closing the door behind them. Amara stood alone in the room. Her hands were still, her breathing quiet. He finally turned his head, not to examine her, not to threaten her, just to see her. She looked back. For a moment, neither spoke. Then he gestured to the chair across from him. "Sit." Not a command, not a suggestion, just the next step. Amara sat. The rain tapped lightly against the window. Steady, soft. The man rested his hands on the table. "You found my wallet," he said. "Yes," Amara answered, her voice soft. "You opened it." There was no accusation in his tone. No disappointment. Just fact. "I needed to know who it belonged to," she said. He nodded once. "You did not take anything." Not a question. No. He studied her, not her face, not her clothes, her intentions. "Do you know who I am?" he asked. Amara shook her head slowly. "I don't." He held her gaze for 3 long seconds. "Good," he said quietly. He didn't smile. But something in his expression shifted, like a lock clicking open. "You are not stupid," he continued. "And you are not greedy." The rain continued its steady rhythm. "Most people," he said, "try to take what is not theirs the moment they believe no one is watching." But she didn't. She returned something that had every reason to tempt her. The man leaned back slightly. "That wallet," he said, "was left intentionally. To see who would take it, who would ignore it, and who would return it." His gaze didn't waver. "Very few return it." Amara swallowed, but her voice stayed steady. "Why test people at all?" A brief pause. "Because loyalty," he said, "cannot be bought. It must be proven." There it was. Not danger. Not threat. Purpose. He stood. "You were honest when you believed no one was watching," he said. "That is rare." He looked at her one last time, long enough for the room to feel heavier. "Come back tomorrow." Not a request. Not a question. Not an invitation. A path. Then he turned away, and the meeting was over. Amara walked out of the house the same way she entered, quietly, carefully, but the woman leaving was not the same as the one who had arrived. She didn't know what tomorrow meant. Work, Opportunity, danger, all of it, maybe. But she understood one thing completely. Returning the wallet had not closed a chapter. It had opened a door, and she had already stepped inside. The car ride felt longer than it actually was. Amara sat in the back seat, hands clasped tightly in her lap, fingers interlocked to keep them from shaking. The city lights outside passed in streaks against the window, but she hardly saw any of them. She was listening to the steady hum of the engine, to the soft rhythm of her breathing, to the silence of the man driving the car. The driver didn't speak. Not once. Not even to acknowledge her presence. He drove with the controlled calm of someone who had done this many, many times before. His posture was straight, movements simple and precise. Not a twitch, not an unnecessary glance, just discipline. Amara swallowed. The leather seats were soft, too soft, like they belonged to a world she wasn't supposed to be part of. The car turned off the main road and onto a long driveway lined with trees. The branches arched overhead, filtering what remained of daylight into scattered patterns across the stone path. They stopped in front of a building that didn't look like a restaurant at first, more like a quiet estate house tucked away from the world. Warm lights glowed behind stained glass windows. The building was old, carefully preserved, elegant in a way that made Amara feel even smaller than she already did. The driver stepped out and opened her door. No words. Just expectation. Amara followed him down the walkway. Her footsteps sounded too loud compared to his near-silent stride. There was a wooden arch over the entrance, carved carefully with the name, La Noce Rosa. She didn't recognize it, but something about it felt significant. Like this place wasn't found by accident. The driver pushed open the door, and warm light spilled out. The air inside smelled of polished wood, wine, and something delicate rosemary, maybe. The restaurant looked ready to host guests, but no one was there. Every table was set, every glass pristine, every detail perfect. But the room was empty. Not closed. Not abandoned. Empty. Like it was reserved. Only for moments like this. Amara followed the driver through the dining room and toward a private area, separated by a heavy velvet curtain. He stepped aside, letting her pass him. She took a breath she hoped, looked steady, and stepped inside. The private room was softly lit, warm but shadowed. And he was there. The man from the restaurant. The owner of the wallet. The one whose presence changed the air around him. He sat at a round table, posture refined, a glass of dark wine resting beside his hand. His expression was calm, almost unreadable, but his eyes held a quiet focus that made Amara feel like he had already known every step she had taken to reach this room. He looked up slowly when she entered. "Thank you for coming," he said. His voice was low, controlled, not unkind, but not casual either. Every word he spoke felt weighed before leaving his mouth. Amara nodded. She didn't trust her voice yet, so she didn't speak. She took the seat only after he gestured to it. The silence that followed wasn't awkward, just heavy, measured, like every second was being recorded. He studied her not in a predatory way, but with precision. The way a surgeon might look at a patient, the way someone evaluates truth. "You returned something most people would have kept," he said. Amara finally found her voice soft, steady enough. "It wasn't mine to take. A simple explanation." He nodded once. But not a common one. She didn't answer. Silence was safer here. He reached toward the wallet on the table, the same one she had held in her hands hours earlier, the same one that had led her here. "You work long hours," he said. "Not a question. A statement. You don't earn much, and you are tired." Amara lowered her eyes. "And this," his fingertips brushed the wallet, "could have changed a great deal for you." Her throat tightened. She didn't look up. "No," she said quietly. "I don't think it would have. I think it would only make things worse." He tilted his head slightly, not surprised, not impressed, just observing. He poured a second glass of wine and placed it before her. She didn't touch it, and he didn't tell her to. "You were tested," he said. Her breath paused. Her fingers curled tighter. "A test?" "Yes." He didn't hesitate. "I left the wallet intentionally." The words dropped into the room like stones into still water, rippling silently outward. Amara looked up at him fully now. "A test for what?" she asked. His eyes met hers directly. "For honesty," he said. Then, after a quiet beat, "and loyalty." Her heartbeat echoed in her ears. "I don't understand," she whispered. "You will," he replied. Not threatening. Not promising. Just absolute. He stood not fast, Not slow, just with the natural ease of someone accustomed to being obeyed without asking. He walked toward the doorway, then paused and turned back, his expression unchanged but something in the air shifting. Amara, he said, speaking her name as if he had known it long before she ever said it to him. There are very few people I trust, fewer than you might believe exist. Silence held its breath. Tonight, you proved something important. The room felt smaller. The world felt suddenly larger. You do not owe me anything, he continued. But I will remember you. The words landed with weight, quiet, final, undeniable. And from this moment forward, he added, voice calm but unmistakably certain, your life will no longer be the same. The next morning, nothing looked different. The sun still climbed slow and pale across the sky. The neighborhood still buzzed faintly with the sounds of vendors opening their stalls, buses groaning through the early routes, neighbors greeting each other with tired voices. Amara's world looked exactly the same. But she didn't feel the same. She woke to silence. A heavy, thoughtful silence. The words from last night echoed quietly in her mind, like someone had spoken them into the walls of her room instead of into her ears. From this moment forward, your life will no longer be the same. She sat for a moment at the edge of her bed, hands folded in her lap. Not afraid, not exactly. Just aware. Aware of something beginning. Something she had not asked for, but also had not walked away from. She dressed for work. The same shoes. The same apron folded twice. The same bus ride with the same tired passengers. But the air around her felt watched. Not in a paranoid way. Just in the way something new feels after you realize you're not invisible anymore. When she reached the restaurant, nothing unusual happened. No whispers. No new faces. No one waiting for her. Just the clatter of kitchen metal, the hiss of the coffee machine, the smell of cinnamon rolls, someone always overcooked and yet somehow always sold out by noon. Morning, the head server, Lana, said while tying her hair up. She didn't look up from her clipboard. Morning, Amara replied softly. Table 4 needs wiping. Someone spilled syrup and decided it was none of their concern. Amara nodded and went to work. It was just like any other day. At first? But by noon, people had noticed something. Not about her. About the restaurant. The first sign came from the manager pacing in the back office. Phone pressed to his ear. Voice too small and too careful. Yes, sir. Of course, yes. Everything is prepared, he said. Today? Yes, she is here. Amara paused outside the office without meaning to. Her name was spoken quietly. But unmistakably? She didn't move until the conversation ended. She stepped back into the corridor before the manager opened the door. She didn't want to be caught listening. She carried napkins to the front counter, moving carefully, as if keeping the world balanced on her steps. She didn't ask questions. She didn't need to. She already knew. Something or someone was coming. Around 1 p.m., the air changed. Not loudly, not with sirens, not with music swelling, just with silence. Like every voice in the restaurant dropped a note lower. Like someone invisible had walked through the room and everyone felt it. Amara was refilling glasses when she sensed something shift behind her. She turned slowly, carefully. A man she had never seen before was sitting in one of the booths. He was alone. He hadn't walked in through the front door. She would have heard. She would have seen. He sat with his back straight, hands folded, nothing remarkable about his clothes but something unmistakable in the way his eyes moved. He wasn't here for food. He was watching her. Not aggressively. Not with hunger or threat. Just observing. Evaluating. Amara didn't look away. She met his gaze for a second, respectful, steady, then continued wiping the table. She didn't ask why he was there. She already knew. The test wasn't finished. When her break came, she stepped outside to breathe. The alley behind the restaurant was quiet, warm with afternoon heat. She leaned against the wall, eyes closed, letting her chest rise and fall in slow, careful breaths. She didn't jump when the voice spoke. "You're calm," it said. She opened her eyes. The man from the booth stood a few feet away, close enough to speak, far enough to not intrude. "Yes," she answered. "Most people shake," he replied. "I know," she said. He studied her again the same way the man last night had. Not searching for fear, searching for something else. "You don't run from things," he said. It wasn't a question. And she didn't deny it. He nodded once, a silent acknowledgement, then stepped closer. "My name is Marco," he said. "I work for him." Amara felt her heart pulse once, slow and heavy. He didn't say the name. He didn't have to. Marco continued. He asked me to watch. Not to interfere. Just to see what you would do when the air changed around you. Amara didn't speak. You didn't hide, Marco said. You didn't panic. You didn't try to ask questions you weren't prepared for. Amara's voice was quiet when she finally replied. What happens now? Marco's expression didn't change. You will be contacted, he said, when he decides you are ready for the next step. The next step of what? Marco paused it. Then answered plainly. Of being trusted. A breeze passed through the alley. Light. Soft. But it carried weight. Marco stepped back. I'll see you again, he said. He didn't mean today. He didn't mean tomorrow. He meant when the story needed him. He left without another word. Amara stayed there a moment longer. Then returned to work. That evening, she walked home. No cars followed her. No phone calls came. No one stopped her. But the city felt different. Not threatening. Not comforting. Just aware of her. As if the world had shifted slightly, making room for her in places she never stood before. She reached her apartment door and paused. There was an envelope taped to it. Plain paper. Unmarked. Untouched by weather. She removed it gently. Inside, there was only one thing. A single key. And a note with 6 words. When you're ready, you will know. Her hands didn't shake. She closed her door quietly behind her and stood in the silence of her small apartment. For the first time, she didn't feel small inside it. She felt seen. And nothing in her life had truly changed yet. But everything had begun. The week moved quietly. Too quietly. The customers at the restaurant came and went, the way they always had. Plates clattered, cups refilled, conversations blended into background noise. But Amara noticed the difference now. She noticed when someone lingered 5 seconds longer than they needed to. She noticed when cars slowed near the sidewalk before continuing. She noticed how her manager watched her with careful eyes, not suspicious, but aware. Like everyone was waiting for something. And Amara didn't know whether she was waiting too. The key sat in her apartment drawer, untouched. She hadn't told anyone. Not Lana. Not her mother. Not herself, not out loud. Every night she opened the drawer, looked at it, closed it again. The note still sat with it. When you're ready, you will know. She didn't feel ready, but life never waited for readiness. It simply arrived. It was a Thursday afternoon when it happened. The restaurant was halfway through lunch rush when the doorbells chimed soft, delicate, but the kind of sound that made the entire room feel like it was holding its breath. 3 people walked in. They didn't look dangerous, not at first. A woman with sleek black hair and round gold earrings. A tall man with a jacket that looked too warm for the weather. And another quiet, smaller, but with eyes that didn't blink often. They didn't look like they needed a table. They looked like they already knew exactly who they came for. The woman's gaze landed on Amara almost immediately. Not searching, recognizing. She walked forward with an elegance that didn't fit the neighborhood, like she was visiting from somewhere wealthier, quieter, more private. Amara? The woman asked. Amara nodded slowly. The woman smiled, polite, warm, and completely unreadable beneath its softness. My name is Lucia, she said. I'm here on behalf of Mr. Carosi. Amara's breath paused. She knew who that meant. The man whose wallet she returned? The man who said her life would not be the same. Lucia continued, her voice gentle but shaped with precision. He would like to see you. Amara glanced at her manager. He wasn't surprised. He didn't look afraid either. He simply nodded. Permission. Or acceptance. She removed her apron slowly. The restaurant noise continued, but Amara could no longer hear it. The world felt like it had narrowed into a corridor she was now walking through, whether she wanted to or not. They didn't go to the car from before. This one was different. A white SUV, clean, reflective, windows tinted just enough to avoid attention but not enough to seem secret. As soon as Amara sat down, Lucia spoke again, this time quieter, more personal. He wanted you to understand something, she said. Amara looked at her. The woman's eyes were calm, not cold. Just knowing. You are not the only one who made a choice that night. Amara's brow softened with confusion. Lucia continued. There was someone else there, watching you. Waiting to see what you would do. She paused. Someone from Chicago. Someone who believes loyalty is a myth. Chicago. Distance. Danger shaped by old streets and long memory. Lucia's fingers tapped once against the door. He disagreed with the decision Mr. Karosi made. Amara understood without needing it explained. Someone didn't think she should have been brought in. Someone didn't think she should have passed. Someone believed kindness was weakness. Amara swallowed. Is he here? She asked. Lucia shook her head. No, not here. A beat? He's in Atlanta now. Amara didn't know why that made her stomach tighten, but it did. Why Atlanta? Lucia looked out the window. Because that's where the business is shifting, she replied. Los Angeles controls the ports, Chicago holds the middle. And Atlanta, she looked back at Amara. Atlanta is where power changes hands quietly. Amara understood. Power didn't move loudly. It moved softly. Like breath. Like a whisper. Like a wallet placed where someone would find it. They arrived at a small art gallery, the kind of place where paintings were too abstract to understand, but priced high enough that understanding wasn't the point. The glass door opened with a soft chime, and the air inside was cool and faintly scented with cedar. Amara followed Lucia through quiet halls, colors and shadows, blending around them until they reached a back room lit by a single skylight. He was there. The same man. Sitting in a chair as if he had already been in the room for hours, waiting for the exact moment she walked in. He looked up, not surprised, not pleased, just present. Amara, he said softly. Her name sounded different in his voice. Like it belonged to something larger now. He stood, the movement smooth, controlled, unhurried. There is something you need to see, he said. He stepped aside, revealing a small envelope on the table. Her breath caught. It was the same kind of envelope she had found on her doorplane. Unmarked. Simple. But this one was not addressed to her. It was addressed to him. He nodded to her, giving permission. She picked it up. Her hands were steady now. She opened it. Inside was a photograph. Her restaurant, taken from across the street, from a distance, at night. The window lights glowing faintly, and a red circle drawn around her silhouette inside. Lucia spoke softly behind her. He's watching you. Chicago. Atlanta. Now here. The man's voice was calm when he finally spoke again. You are no longer invisible, Amara. He didn't say I will protect you. He didn't say, you are safe now. He didn't need to. She understood. She had entered a world where trust was rare, and being seen came with a price. The diner feels different now. Not in a way anyone else would notice. Plates still clatter, orders still ring out, laughter rises and falls, but Amara is no longer just Amara here. Customers look at her longer. Whispers stop when she walks by. And sometimes, it feels as though people are waiting for her to do something important, but no one has told her what. She keeps her head down, keeps working. The sun is dipping when she steps outside to take the trash to the alley behind the diner. The light is golden, quiet, peaceful. Then she sees him. A man leaning against a silver sedan, wearing a gray coat, hands in his pockets, calm, watching her. Not threatening, not hiding, just watching. Her heart tightens. She recognizes him not by face, but by presence. She saw him outside the convenience store earlier this week, standing near the bus stop late last night, across from her apartment building early this morning. Always near, never approaching, never speaking, just watching. She freezes, trash bag hanging loosely in her hand. The man nods. One slow, respectful bow of the head like a greeting. Not a threat, but certainty hits her. He is here because of Marco. Amara swallows, forces her voice steady. Do you need something? The man's answer is immediate, polite, controlled. No, ma'am. I'm just here to make sure you're safe. The word lands like ice. Safe. From what? He doesn't blink. From anything that might worry Mr. Romano. Marco Romano. Hearing the name aloud confirms everything she's tried not to assume. Amara's breath shakes, but she keeps her voice calm. You work for him. The man nods once. Mr. Romano has many people. I am simply the one assigned to you. Assigned. Like a detail. Like a schedule. Like she is part of something now. I didn't ask for protection. I know. But you earned it. That's different. Her fingers tighten on the trash bag until plastic crinkles. He pushes off the car and steps closer, not approaching her, but closing the space just enough to lower his voice. Marco, she started, but he cut her off with a raised hand. No names. Not yet. You're here because someone has eyes on you, because decisions you make in the next 48 hours will ripple far beyond this city. Ha Young Nam trusts me to ensure the integrity of his operations. And you, he said, pointing a gloved finger toward her, have a front row seat in a theater of consequences. The word theater settled heavily in her mind. Every shadow in the alley seemed to stretch longer, darker. Cars passed intermittently on the main street, their headlights casting brief, blinding flares across Marco's sharp features. Maya's heart raced, her every instinct screaming to run, but the thought of the wallet and the unseen forces watching kept her rooted. You'll be given instructions, Marco continued, the calm cadence of his speech belying the threat beneath. Precise instructions. Follow them exactly. You'll encounter people who seem trustworthy. Some will be, some won't. Your judgment will be tested constantly. There's no room for hesitation and no tolerance for mistakes. Fail, and you'll wish you had stayed behind the diner counter, counting tips instead of lives. The words hit like a physical blow. Maya's mind spun with the implications. The stakes had just gone from personal integrity to survival. Her dream of becoming a doctor, the very thing that had guided every choice in her life, now intersected with a criminal world she barely understood. One wrong decision here, one lapse in vigilance, and everything could unravel. She forced herself to breathe, slow and steady, focusing on the rational part of her mind. Fear could be a weapon, yes, but panic would be fatal. Marco's presence was a test in itself. His proximity, his calm menace, his keen observation, they were all designed to gauge how she would react under extreme pressure. Miss Johnson. Marco's voice cut through the rain like a blade, smooth and controlled, yet carrying a weight that made her knees want to buckle. I hear you've been busy. She forced a calm she didn't feel, tightening her grip on the wallet. I'm just doing what's right, she said, her voice steady despite the tremor beneath it. I don't know what you're talking about. Marco's lips curved into a half smile, the kind that didn't reach his eyes. Don't play games. Word travels fast. Kim Hyung-nam watches closely, but some situations require personal observation. And that's where I come in. His gaze swept over her, measuring, cataloging, judging. Each flicker of her expression, each hesitation, was noted and stored away. Maya swallowed, the taste of fear bitter in her mouth. She thought of the $5,000 envelope still tucked safely in her coat pocket. That money, the one meant to test her loyalty, now felt like a tether, a chain linking her to a world she hadn't asked to enter but couldn't escape. One misstep, one moment of weakness, and it could all be gone, her studies, her safety, her freedom. Marco took a deliberate step closer, and Maya felt the distance shrink, the alley tightening around her like a trap. You've passed the initial test, he said, voice low, almost conversational, but carrying an undertone of menace. Integrity, principle, admirable. But here's the question, can you survive what comes next? Can you move with discretion, make decisions that balance life and death, all while staying unseen? Her mind flashed back to the diner, to the first time she had returned the wallet. The suffocating tension of the phone call with Hyung-nam, the weight of responsibility pressing on her chest as she made that impossible decision. It had been only the beginning. Now, standing in the rain-soaked alley, Maya realized the test wasn't over, it had evolved, and she was at the center of it. Marco, she started, but he cut her off with a raised hand. No names. Not yet. You're here because someone has eyes on you, because decisions you make in the next 48 hours will ripple far beyond this city. Hyung-nam trusts me to ensure the integrity of his operations. And you, he said, pointing a gloved finger toward her, have a front row seat in a theater of consequences. The word theater settled heavily in her mind. Every shadow in the alley seemed to stretch longer, darker. Cars passed intermittently on the main street, their headlights casting brief, blinding flares across Marco's sharp features. Maya's heart raced, her every instinct screaming to run, but the thought of the wallet and the unseen forces watching kept her rooted. You'll be given instructions, Marco continued, the calm cadence of his speech belying the threat beneath. Precise instructions. Follow them exactly. You'll encounter people who seem trustworthy. Some will be, some won't. Your judgment will be tested constantly. There's no room for hesitation and no tolerance for mistakes. Fail, and you'll wish you had stayed behind the diner counter, counting tips instead of lives. The words hit like a physical blow. Maya's mind spun with the implications. The stakes had just gone from personal integrity to survival. Her dream of becoming a doctor, the very thing that had guided every choice in her life, now intersected with a criminal world she barely understood. One wrong decision here, one lapse in vigilance, and everything could unravel. She forced herself to breathe, slow and steady, focusing on the rational part of her mind. Fear could be a weapon, yes, but panic would be fatal. Marco's presence was a test in itself. His proximity, his calm menace, his keen observation, they were all designed to gauge how she would react under extreme pressure. "You'll start tonight," Marco said finally, his tone shifting, dropping the thin veneer of casual observation. "There's a meeting, a gathering, some of the most influential in Hyungnam's network. You'll observe, you'll report, and you'll remain unseen. Do you understand?" Maya nodded, her throat tight. "I understand." Marco stepped back, letting her catch a glimpse of the city beyond the alley. The rain continued to fall, a relentless curtain, washing the streets but not cleansing the weight of what lay ahead. "Good, keep the wallet close. It's more than cash, it's a symbol, a signal. And remember," he paused, his eyes locking onto hers, cold and precise. "Trust no one beyond this moment, not even yourself." Then, as suddenly as he had appeared, Marco melted back into the shadows, leaving Maya alone. The alley felt impossibly long and empty, and yet the presence of unseen watchers pressed down on her from every direction. She adjusted her coat, sliding the wallet securely into an inner pocket, and forced herself to move toward the street. Every step was a calculation, every glance over her shoulder a survival tactic. Maya's mind raced, plotting contingencies, weighing threats, imagining every possible scenario. The city was alive around her, buzzing with lights and life, yet beneath it all lay a darkness she was only beginning to understand. Marco had set the stage. Nam's eyes were everywhere, and in that moment, Maya realized her ordinary life had been replaced by a high-stakes game where every move mattered and the consequences were absolute. Tonight was just the beginning.